Everyone, welcome to chapter 3 of our webinar series. Today we're going to get into probably one of my favorite portions of this series, just because we're going to be building out a ton of end user functionality, essentially making the app usable today, which will be really, really cool. So before we start, wanted to show you and just kind of remind you about, again, what we're shooting for. So this is the build in Figma, the design, the high fidelity wireframes. And then this is our actual end product. So this is the Skuid app, and we'll deploy it in Lightning at the end of this as well. But just wanted to show you some of what we're going to hit today, because it's really, really cool. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to get our opportunity table down here with our child accounts, so the opportunities for each respective child account, as well as the closed opportunities, so open and closed opportunity tables. We're going to add some drill down into the chart, so I can drill into a particular stage, see that underlying opportunity, read, edit, read, write, all that kind of stuff, and mass update if I want to. The other thing that we're going to do is build in our add case functionality. So we'll create a nice little modal with some fields where we can quickly add a case. And we're also going to build out a sliding panel to view cases, as well as this enable or disabled display logic on the view cases button. So because there are no cases for this particular series of accounts, we are showing a little tooltip that says, no open cases, making sure the user understands, hey, nothing's broken here, there's just no cases. We also don't want them to click this and then just get an empty state of something, because that's confusing too. So there does happen to be a case here. And so, for example, now this button is enabled, and when we hit view cases, we're going to get a nice sliding panel with whatever case we've just created. So we're doing all of that today in less than an hour. It's going to be really awesome. I'm pretty stoked about it. A lot of cool functionality, really just making, again, like I said in the beginning, really just making this app usable for the end user. So with that said, back to Skuid Central, and you can go ahead and hover over Compose and hit All Pages to bring up your list of pages. I've already got mine open, but I'll just click this just to show you all again. And then from here, you can click the little cogs or wheels next to whatever page you're working on. So I'm just going to go over to ours. This is where we picked up from chapter 2. The other thing that I did during this week was I used our Quick Create page, and I went and created a bunch of accounts and opportunities so that we can have just a lot more data to work with. So hopefully you've had a chance to do that. If you haven't, don't worry, like this app today will still work fine. It'll just it'll look cooler if you've got more accounts and child accounts and opportunities, just to kind of see the interplay of everything. But just wanted to let you all know that's what's happened sort of behind the scenes this week, is just created a bunch of accounts and opportunities. Okay. So back to our app composer. This is the runtime then of where we left off. So we had our chart, we had just the titles or the names of our child accounts cascading down here. And if we clicked into a different account, we would get sort of the updated list of child accounts and opportunities and those kinds of things. So let's begin. So the first thing I want to do is, first of all, just get some better padding around these two elements. You can see if we look at Figma, there's a nice little bit of spacing between the inner content here and this outer card, as well as a little bit of spacing over here, and then obviously spacing between these two cards, this left column and this right column. So let's do that real quick, and then we'll get into we'll start with the chart today. So for our responsive grid, we're going to want to add a column gutter size of regular, and then we're going to use wrappers to handle the rest of our spacing. Wrappers are a really convenient way of applying spacing or any sort of controls to a bunch of components contained inside them. So in this case, it's not that significant, but over here, there's a lot of different elements that we don't want to add spacing to each of these components. I'd rather just do it once to the wrapper. So we're going to drag every single component over here up into the wrapper component. Just going to do that real quick. And once we're done, what this is going to allow us to do then is at the wrapper level, then under the styles tab under spacing, we can just do, we'll do large all the way around for this one. And that way I'm doing it once at the wrapper and not, can you imagine what a pain that would be to do that for all these components down here? So really grateful for wrappers. They're awesome for tons of different reasons. Right now, super grateful for this reason. You can just add spacing to the wrapper and not worry about the other. We are, just because kind of know what's coming, we are going to add another wrapper outside of this one. And the external wrapper here is what's going to be our white background with these rounded borders. And then that internal one is what's going to be the spacing between this inner content and the outer edge of that wrapper. So to do that, we'll just drag another wrapper down. This is much easier now because that wrapper contains everything below, so I'm not having to drag everything again. For this wrapper, we're going to add a little bit of spacing on the top right and bottom just to get some more control between the division here of the list and this content. So top, just going to do reduced, bottom, reduced, skip the left, do right, reduced. And then for this wrapper, same thing, but top left and bottom. So top, reduced, bottom, and left. Cool. All right, so let's preview our page. It should be spaced a lot more pleasantly. And it is awesome. Okay, so we've got our gap there. And even though you can't see it, we've got the spacing here between the inside wrapper and that external wrapper, which is holding all of our content. So that's great. All right, so, the other thing real quick that I noticed, so this deck here, if you scroll sideways, you can see there's a little bit of a scroll there, and that's not ideal. And the reason that's happening is because the deck's card has a column width. And so we just need to get rid of that because when you're using it 100% width, you really don't want any sort of additional edge there. So for the deck, let's just go down here, go to display and layout. We'll change the column gutter size to 0 pixels, not 0 pixels. There we go. Okay. And actually, while I'm down here, I'm going to, I noticed the pagination. We can get rid of this. We don't want to display all this. We're just showing the table with the opportunity. So untick show page size dropdown. We don't need to see that. Layout's good, other, and we can get rid of all of those. We don't need to show that content. Okay. So now what we're going to do is that drill down on the chart. And this is actually really pretty simple to do in Skuid. So our chart is looking at all of our open opportunities, and we just need to go to the series list, and that series that we added where we're summing on that amount field, you'll see this little add on click action. So we're going to do that. We're going to click and we're going to hit on our action framework. We're going to choose the action of show modal. Then you can click this little configure modal button and we will begin configuring our modal. So this is really awesome, totally declarative to build modals. You see how easy it is to launch one, and really useful to be able to have that option from a UI, UX perspective for users. And this is going to show the details of the opportunity in whatever stage the users clicked on that chart. So to do that, let's grab a table component. Let's drag it into our modal. And we want this table to be showing the same data, that's in our chart, which is those child accounts that are open. We don't, or no, we are going to keep a save cancel there because we want folks to be able to do inline edits. That's fine. Read with inline editing, we'll keep that the same. And then we'll just add some fields from the model. And we'll bring in the name field, the amount, stage, and the close date. Cool. All right. And then this new modal, we don't want it to be called new modal. So we'll just call this op detail or details, whichever you'd like. And then the width of the modal, that's a little narrow for a table. We want this to be pretty easy and roomy for folks to be able to look at. So we'll switch the width to 50%. So you can, as you would imagine, like from seeing pixels there, you can do pixels, you can do percent or like viewport width or view height, any of those. We're going to stick with 50% just so that we've got a nice kind of consistent width there. Then we also want to be able to do that mass update. So for the mass actions on our table, we're going to add a mass action. And we're just going to call this one mass update. And our action, this is similar to what we were building on the quick create page, is mass update rows. And we're good there. Okay. So for the display, we are going to hide the page size drop down. It just cleans up our table a little bit because the modal, we want to really just let the user focus on the records that are coming in. We don't need a fully functioning table component, as it were. We're just trying to present the data in a nice way. So we don't need that page size drop down. And for configuration, we're good there. Advanced is fine. Other, let's just get rid of the footer. Okay, so we'll save. The other thing that is, and I'll show you, this isn't going to work perfectly right now because we haven't set any context. So I'll show you what happens when we don't set context on our table. So if I click into proposal price quote, you can see I'm bringing back opportunities in all sorts of stages and bring back all the opportunities. That's no good though, because we want to just show the opportunities that are relevant to where the user's clicking. So we're going to do two things. One, the way this chart looks, it's way too spread out. Those columns are too narrow. So we are going to, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's just bothering me, but we'll stick on context now. So for context, our table, there's a property up here in the top right, context. So we'll click that and we're going to add a context condition. And we actually, it defaults to exactly what we need. And all that is the opportunity ID of the record is equal to the opportunity ID of the record in context. And what that is doing is saying, hey, whatever opportunity ID is here, in other words, these are all the opportunities that are in the proposal price quote, then show in that table the opportunities with those same ID. So we'll save. See, that context is set. It's good. We'll save. Oh, and before we go back there, let's just fix that chart real quick so it looks a little bit better. So click on the chart, go to the styles property, and oops, I'm sorry, the display property. And for stacking, we're going to turn that on. There we go. Okay. So let's refresh our page. Our chart will look a little bit better. It does. And now let's click proposal price quote and see what we get. Perfect. Okay, so we're just returning the opportunities then that match whatever opportunities are in that particular stage. Yep, value prop. Awesome. So if we go to Humboldt, let's click in there. Yep. Very, very cool. So that's great because that gives us the ability to blend insight with action. So if I click into proposal price quote, for example, I can inline edit this. And let's say I want to make this negotiation review. Need to update that stage. I can hit save. And when I close this, we've moved that particular opportunity into negotiation and review. So, or actually, no, yeah. The reason it needs to be updated even further, though, is because we need to make sure we're re-querying every time as we interact with that. So if I go back to Nautilus Core and I see qualification, I've got one here, and I want to bump that to value prop. You can see that chart reacting in the background. Now I've got, my two opportunities in value prop, my qualification is down. So all that's working great. And if I wanted to mass update, that works as well. So really cool. The one thing that's a little wonky here is that our stages, there's no real order to them. We should have that as a progression of the stage. And so the best way to do that is going back to the model, and that's child account ops open. And there's a fields to order record by. And you just have to put in the API name of the field, which is stage name. And Salesforce, by default, if you sort by stage name, it will sort it in the order of the stages that you set up in your org, which is really convenient. So when we refresh this page, cool. Now we've got a consistent, that's the order in which our sales stages go for our opportunities. Awesome. So there's the chart. We've got our drill downs. We've got our mass action, inline edit. Everything's working great there. So now let's add the opportunity tables, the open opportunities, the pipeline, and the closed or the history. So back to our app composer. Going down to this deck component, which is iterating through all of our child accounts. And now we want to configure our models to make sure that they are going to be displaying the right data. So I'm going to open this up. And for child account ops open, this condition, if you recall, is how we're getting opportunity records where the lookup to the account ID is any of the child account IDs. Really powerful. So we're looking at a series of related records instead of just one related record to one account. We're seeing all the opportunities for all the child accounts. Really, really powerful. So child accounts, ops open, sorted by stage name. That's great. Is closed is false. And then ops closed for consistency. I'm just going to call this child accounts ops closed. And this one, we still need to update from when we were testing this back in chapter 1, but opportunity records where account ID is in field from another model and all of our child accounts. So again, just looking for the closed opportunities in all of the child accounts that we have clicked on. That condition needs to always be on. So that's great. And I'm just going to drag it up so it's right underneath our child accounts open. Great. So we'll save that. Now in our deck, we're going to add a tab component or tab set component. And we want that inside the deck, but below this text component. And on the tab, we'll add another tab. And this first one, so if you click on the new tab itself, we want to call this pipeline. And the second tab, we're going to call history. Going back to the first tab now, we are going to just do another quick create for this model, the ops open. So if you double click that model, we want to create a table. And we'll pop that table up into that pipeline. And we will, we've got a little bit more to configure here, but the importance of context here is really kind of the trick to getting that experience of a series of related records, all in the context of all those child accounts. So without context, what's happening is that this table is just going to show all opportunities, similar to what was happening in our chart. And that's not a great experience. So a couple things, though, that we need to do. When the user's clicking on this list, that's how we're then applying those conditions, querying the database and bringing back all the relevant data. Well, now we've got a couple more models that we need to include in that query. So for query models, child accounts open, that's great, that's coming back. But we need to also see the child accounts closed as well. So really easy to just add that to the query. Make sure you do that though, because you will not get any of your closed ops back if you don't do that. You also need to make sure you've created some ops that are closed as well from your quick create. So I made sure to close or create a couple opportunities that were closed won, and that's what it's going to be looking for. So now let's refresh our page. And remember, we haven't set context yet in that table. So as you would expect, we're seeing all opportunities. So APAC, EMEA, all under apparently child account EMEA, which is not accurate. So we need to set context. Really easy to do though. This context is a little bit different than the other one that we were setting. This time we're using the context of the parent account field. So instead of ID of ID, click on this ID of record. And then for the field, we're going to choose, so we're looking at our opportunity object, and we want the opportunities where the parent, where the lookup to the account is the account ID of the record in context. So sorry, not parent, just the account, because opportunities are looking to accounts, not parent accounts. So once we've set that, this context now is saying, hey, any opportunity account in this table, you need to compare whatever that lookup to the account is and make sure it's the same account as whatever the record in context is. So Nautilus Core APAC, the lookup, this is the opportunity record. So this lookup to APAC needs to match whatever, account record we're on. So once we've done that, we'll save. Now let's refresh this page. And there, that is the power of context right there. So powerful, because now we're looking at a series of opportunities across child accounts all in one screen. And we've set that up, I mean, pretty simply. It's a deck with a tab set and a table in it. And it's dynamically just going to iterate through and show us all the opportunities for whatever we click on. So because we've updated that query on our list interaction, if I click Humboldt, I can see there's my opportunities for Humboldt. See the context is right as well. Let's do Blue Shoals. So cool. So now let's go back. We don't really need this account ID anymore. It was mostly just to prove like these are the opportunities, they're lining up correctly, but the end user, that's not necessary. That's just an extra field. And they don't need to see whether or not it's open or closed. It's just a Boolean there. We're gonna show them what's open and closed by the pipeline and the history. So for this table, we also want to clean this one up a little bit. We don't need the page size dropdown, and we don't need the header or footer for this one, so untick both. And we don't want to show the save cancel. We're going to have a sort of a master save cancel at the top, which will be able to, in a single click, just save across any of the changes made on any of those opportunity tables. So for now, just untick that box for save cancel. And the reason we're doing all this right now is because instead of doing all this twice, we're going to use that really handy clone feature. We're going to clone that table, and we're going to use this for our closed opportunities. So drag it out of the tab set so that you can select the history tab. And then let's pop that table back down here. The difference though, and this is really important, this table is still looking at our open opportunities, which is not what we want. So make sure to switch the model that this table is looking to the child accounts ops closed. Now, because we had cloned those models, all these fields exist in that model. And so nothing's gonna need to be configured here at the table level. If, for example, we'd created a new model, maybe it was looking at a different object, or maybe it was looking at opportunities and we hadn't added fields to it, if we switch this, anything that wasn't in the model that we switched it to would just get wiped out and disappear because those fields don't necessarily exist in that model or object. Because these models are clones of each other, we can switch these, kind of interchange them. We don't have to worry about anything because those fields are present. The key though is that because it's looking at our ops closed model, that model has that condition on it that's saying only bring back the ops where is closed is true. We've already set context from the first table. So let's just save here and refresh our page. And I did add a couple closed opportunities for Nautilus Core. So now if we go to history, there they are. So those are the ops for Nautilus Core EMEA, and then we've got a couple for Nautilus Core APAC. Because these are closed, this table is defaulting to read with inline edit. They're closed though. We don't want anybody to edit those. So just to make sure in the UI that that's not confusing for users, that they don't think they have the ability to edit that, for the history table, just switch the default mode to read only. And that solves that problem. So now they won't even see that pencil. They won't think they have the opportunity to edit it. And that's just really nice. There, can't touch it. So very cool. We've got the accounts, the opportunities open and closed lined up. And now we're gonna do the kind of the bulk of this today is that the view cases and the add case functionality. So if we're going back to our finished state, the view cases and add cases is what we're focusing on, is that sliding panel and that modal. All right, so let's go back to our app composer. And for the buttons, they're gonna be up here based on our Figma design to the right of the account, like that high level. This is the name of the parent account. So we need a button set. Let's drag that down into this right-hand division right there. And we need two buttons. So just hit add button group. So click on this button on the left. We're gonna call this one view cases. And again, we're not worrying about styling now. It's gonna be in the next few chapters where we style this and make everything look awesome. Right now, we're just getting the functionality and pieces in place. This one we're gonna call, oops, not save. This is gonna be add case. We're going to add an icon here, and we'll just use the plus icon. You can choose whatever icon you want, though. This probably makes the most sense for adding a case. And now we're going to configure the add case functionality, and then we'll get to the sliding panel. So for add case, click on add case, and you'll up here for the properties for that particular button, we're going to the actions. So now we're going to determine what happens when that user clicks to add a case. Before we have our actions, though, we need to have a model that's configured, that's looking at the case object, that is going to be handling all of our new cases that we're creating. So back to our models, and I'm going to open this up again. We have this cases model already that we're using for testing in chapter 1, just to see if we're getting data in. And we're going to just use this for our new cases, but we need to configure it a little bit differently. So for cases, well, actually, because we're already querying this, we're just going to use this for our view cases. So I'm going to say child accounts, stick with our nomenclature, open cases. I'll leave that query 1. We need to update our condition to where case records, where the account ID is in, because we want to see the cases for all of the child accounts. Pointed at that model. Great. So that'll bring back cases, any open case for, well, actually it won't bring back open ones yet, so let's do that. So just grab the status field, case records where status is not closed. There, now we won't see any of the cases that are already closed. We don't need those for this particular context. That's not going to be helpful, so we'll save. And so now this is bringing back all the cases that relate to any of the child accounts and only the open cases. So for our create a new case, we're going to create another model, and we're going to call this child accounts new case. And this is really powerful because we've got, I mean, we've done this before with opportunities and counts, but just calling it out again, we now have a couple models looking at the case object, but we're using them for 2 different things. One is just querying and returning all the data with the cases. And the other, we aren't querying on page load. We're going to limit the number of records to 1, because we're just creating 1 case at a time. And on page load, then nothing is happening with this particular query. Nothing needs to. We haven't necessarily decided that we're going to create a record every time we land on this page, so we don't need to worry about it. So it just kind of sits there until the user needs to use it. Really powerful capability, and if you extrapolate from there, so you can get really performant pages where, depending on what the use case is or what the user is needing to interact with, you don't always need to query everything on page load. You can wait until the user is in a point in their story where maybe they need to see certain data or create a certain record. So that's some of how you would configure that. But now that we've got our case, our new case kind of set up, we are going to, yep, that's fine. And it's not being queried on page load. Now we're going back to our button. And for our actions, we're going to add an action. And this action is going to be create new rows. And we're going to create new rows in our new case model. And so because it's not queried on page load, there's no rows in there. There's no records. No empty records, no existing records, nothing is in there. So the first thing we need to do is create a record. And so that's what that action does. Then we will show a modal. Similar to how we set up the other one, hit the little configure modal button. And this one is going to be 640 pixels is actually great for this one because it's just going to be a simple form for them to fill out. We're going to call this new case, and we are going to use a form component. Pop that down here. Make sure the form component is pointed at our new case model. We don't need this section heading, and now we're just going to add a few fields, and that's going to be the status or the subject. Let's do the subject first, actually. Subject. You can rearrange these fields after we add them, but yeah, just going to do them in the order that I want. Description. Great. And the account ID. Okay. So for the subject and the status, we want these to be on one line. So if you grab the status field itself and drop it into that little drop zone, that's what we want. And then we can remove this row. Description is fine there. And then just to show kind of if we do want to rearrange, let's move the account ID row up to the top. So now we've got, we're creating a new case on that action. We're creating a new record and we're showing this pop-up. Our form has the fields that we need for the user to enter. But because we know in this context, they're always going to be filling out information, let's just help them out and put the form in edit mode. So there's no point to having them, click a pencil or say, I want to edit this. We know that's the context in which they're opening this. The next thing, this little add button, we're going to hit that twice because we want to add a cancel and a save and close button. So if they change their minds, we need to give them, the ability to get out of this state. So for cancel, we're going to add an action, and the action is cancel model changes. And we're canceling changes in the new case model. Perfect. And after that, we want to close the modal as well. So they save them a click. So they don't have to, hit the little X. So close all modals. For this button, we're going to call this save and close. And for its actions, we want to, we're going to do a little bit more complexity here just for a good user experience. So we're going to first show a message and block the UI. And we're going to say, you can put whatever message you want here, but something that lets the user know a case is being created or saved or whatever it may be. I'm just going to put creating case. Then I'm going to add 4 more actions. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's open this up and update these. So we show that message, we say creating case. Then we want to save the records that we just created, which are in the new case model. So we'll save model changes there. Then if you recall that other model that we've got, that view all cases model, we want to make sure that the case that we just created is going to show up in there immediately. So without the user having to refresh the page or anything like that, we want to make sure that that case is in that sliding panel list. And so to do that, once this record is saved, we want to query the all cases or the open cases model. So that way that record that's just created is going to get queried and be brought back now with the rest of those cases. After that, we want to close our modal. And then this is really key. We blocked the UI, we need to unblock the UI. There have been countless times where I've forgotten this step, and all these actions will run in the background and creating case will just stay on the screen with everything blocked and you can't figure out what's going on. So make sure you unblock the UI. This is really useful though to bookend series of actions with the show message and block UI and then unblock UI, because it makes sure the users know, hey, something is going on in the background and they're not clicking around or wondering why, nothing's happening, or seemingly, nothing's happening. So really useful for a good user experience to just let the user know, even if it's only going to flash, for a second or two, really useful just to let them know, hey, something's going on. It's working. So now that we've got that, we will, let's just take a peek at this. And there's some other design stuff we're going to do just to make this even more user-friendly. So we'll refresh. We'll see our buttons up here on the top right. So view cases, we haven't set up to do anything. Add case, though, should give us our little modal, which it does. But our accounts are all of our accounts. And that's not ideal because we're really creating a case in the context of this account hierarchy, in this case, Nautilus Core Global. The other thing, this is a reference lookup field. That's not bad, but there could be a more convenient way, hint there is, to allow the user to just quickly choose from what is likely going to be not a massive list of child accounts. So let's do that real quick, and then we'll get to the sliding panel. So here on the account ID field, if you click on the field, you get the properties for the field itself. And there's a filters property. And this is present on any sort of reference field. So we're going to add a lookup filter. And we're going to say, hey, only bring back the accounts where the ID is equal to the field from another model. So before we can say in, we need to specify field from another model. And once we specify the field from another model, which is going to be child accounts, then we get the in option. So ID where the field is in any of the child accounts IDs. So that will only return the results then for whatever account hierarchy is in context. And then the other piece was that reference. So Skuid has this really awesome capability where for a reference field, you can choose to display it as a pick list. And that's all you have to do. So we'll hit save, and now let's check out this experience. So we'll refresh. And we'll add a case. And now I've got a pick list that's just showing the accounts in the Nautilus Core Global. And let's just make sure that's working. So if we go to Blue Shoals and hit add a case, now we're just looking at all the blue shoals. Awesome, very cool. So a couple things, account ID that's kind of confusing for the user. So we're gonna wanna switch that. We just need to change the label though. So we've already got this field selected for the properties. So custom label, let's call that account. The last thing we're gonna do, and this is just good housekeeping from like a data cleanliness perspective, is if I click on like the modal properties itself, there's this feature called after close actions. And after close, we are just going to remove all of the rows from that new cases model. And so, because if you remember when we hit add case, we create that row. Well, if the user's hitting cancel, or maybe they're just closing this anyway, there's just that empty row floating out there. And that could cause some problems. We just don't want that data there. And if the user leaves the page, they're going to say, hey, there's unsaved changes, and that's going to be confusing because there's no perceived unsaved changes. The unsaved changes being that row that's just sitting there and not saved. So what this action does is ensure if they close it by hitting the X, if they hit cancel, if they hit save and close, regardless, whenever this modal closes, we're just going to remove those rows from that model. And that solves that problem. It's really elegant. Nice to be able to have after close actions because otherwise you'd be having to do the remove rows action on all of these, and that's a pain. All right, so view cases. This one is where, in this example, let's see, let's just kind of refresh ourselves on what this is going to look like. We open that sliding panel, and we've got all the cases that exist for this particular account. And if we make a change to that, we're conditionally rendering a save and cancel button, which is really cool and useful. So we're going to build out that functionality now. So going back to view cases, let's hit actions on that button, hooking into our actions framework here. And we are going to open a sliding panel. And the configure panel button, click on that. And for this, we're going to bring in first a wrapper component. Let's drag a wrapper down. And then, again, just as a reference point, we've got a button set, which is just our close button. And then we also had conditionally rendered those save and cancels. So we'll bring in 2 button sets to have that vertical stack. And just clone that. So this first button is going to act as our close. So we don't actually need a label on this button. We just need an icon. So I'm going to use that X. And I'm going to add a little bit of spacing here. Just do that. And for this button set, I want some spacing, even spacing. So the same thing between that. And I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom of this as well because we're going to bring in the cases, beneath these buttons. So top and bottom are reduced. Cool. Okay. So we've got our this button with just the X in it, no label, but we need it to do something. So we'll go back to our actions, and this action is going to be just close sliding panel. That's what we want it to do. The reason why we want to control it in this button is we don't want people to be able to make some changes and then accidentally close this panel without saving. So we're going to force them to only close the button or only close the panel intentionally with the button click. And we are also going to update then the default behavior of the sliding panel. So if you click on the sliding panel, we don't want this to close when a user clicks outside of it. We only want it to close when they are choosing to close it, not if they accidentally click outside. So with that configured, we want to add another button group to this set below. This one is just going to be cancel. And similar to what we were doing for new cases, this is just going to cancel model changes. And this model, though, is the open cases. So cancel changes in our open cases model. And then close the sliding panel. Right there. Cool. This one is just going to say save. Our actions, just going to go ahead and add the two here. Save model changes is the first one, and we want to save the open cases. And then we want to close the sliding panel. So those are our buttons, but now we need the visual for the cases, and we're using a deck component for that. So bring in a deck, and let's drop it actually underneath that Senk It button set. And for the deck, we'll configure this just a little bit. So for the display, we want to untick these boxes. We don't need to show the page size drop down. And for the layout, don't want a column gutter size, so 0 pixels again there. And for other, we can get rid of the footer, and we'll leave the header for now. We'll come back to that if we don't like how that looks. And then for the card, we want the width to be 100%. And what the deck does, that card width, is it fills whatever container it's sitting in. So if our card is 100% and our sliding panel appears 270 pixels, that card would then expand to be 270 pixels. However, we want this to be a little bit friendlier based on whatever size screen is being used. So we're going to switch this to a percentage. We're just going to say 25% of the screen is how big we want this panel to open. So the deck, remember, iterates through records. So we want to make sure we're iterating through all of our open cases. And then we want to be able to display a component that allows a user to interact with that, which our form component is perfect for. So now we've got our form. We want to update the model to be the open cases. So that's what we're looking at. And we'll put this one in edit mode, just so save the user a click if they want to make any changes. We don't need our section heading. So if you click on new section, you can untick that box. And then we're going to go over here and add our model fields. And this time we're doing the same as before. So subject, same as like our new case. Status, description, and account ID. And for the sake of consistency as well, just for a look and feel, subject and status can be next to each other. So bring that up to that drop zone, and then we'll remove this row. And account ID, that is fine. Let's actually choose to display this as a pick list. That'll be kind of nice. We don't need to do a filter on this because this there's a model condition where it's only returning cases where the lookup to the account is in all of those child accounts. So that's already getting taken care of at the model level. So now that we've got our cases, we will we'll add a render condition to this button set. So if you look in our runtime, if we make a change, then we show that. If not, though, those are not visible. So the way that we do that, the conditional rendering is extraordinarily powerful in Skuid, and it's super easy to set up. So we'll click our button set component, display logic, and let's add a render condition. And our render condition, you can get really granular, specific, and complex in terms of all the different things that you can use to drive a condition. You can also have multiple conditions, and you can use and/or logic, or custom logic like 1 and 2, or 3 or 4. Or you can say, all of them or any of them. Really, really cool. I will try to not get sidetracked there. It's really awesome, though, the types of experiences you can use with render conditions. We're just sort of letting data unfold based on, the path that the user is on or what's relevant for their moment in time. Really fun and easy to set that up. So for this button, though, or these buttons, this button set, we want to render this based on a model property. And the model property is going to be our open cases model. And the property is only rendered if it has unsafe changes. So if unsafe changes is equal to true. So we'll save that. And now let's give that a test and see where we're at. So because we haven't had that disable or enable condition, view cases, it looks like I can click something here for Nautilus Core, even though there is not any records. So that's not a great experience. I do know there is a case here, though, for purposes of testing. And this is a great example of why it's super useful to be having a space where you can be prototyping and testing as you're building. The reason there's no cases coming back here is we forgot to add that. I forgot to add that, I won't blame you all, to our list of models to query when we're interacting over here on the left. So let's go back real quick. We'll go to our list, go to our interactions, and on click, there's some more stuff that we need to query. We want to query open cases. So we'll go ahead and save that. And now let's test it. So really convenient to be able to be building in the app composer and then just testing in your runtime. Just having those two places kind of side by side is really, really nice. So let's see here if there's anything else that we need to do. Nope, that was it. Perfect. So the map went off the side of the ship. If we make a change, there's an unsaved change. Yep, and there's our save cancel button, that render, because there's an unsaved change in this model. Awesome. Okay, so now this page is not only starting to come together from a bit of a layout perspective, definitely not as elegant looking as a fully styled page because we haven't touched our DSS yet. But in terms of the general layout based on our Figma wireframe, we're getting closer. Fields are the data is kind of spread out how we'd want it to be. Still a good bit of styling left to do, but we've got some really powerful functionality already. So we've got our opportunities. So we're looking at opportunity data, a series of opportunities related to a series of child accounts, open and closed. We have the ability to add a case, to view existing cases, and just to kind of prove that functionality out, let's just use what we built. So we'll add a case. Nautilus, let's do South America, and let's say map is lost, or no, we've already done that one. Let's come up with another nautical theme. Let's say the sail is not working, and the description, the sail is torn. Okay, so now we'll hit our save and close. Remember, on save and close, we're saving that record, and then we're going to query our all cases model so that as soon as I open view cases, we'll know that it's going to be there. We're also going to close the modal. We're going to show that message first, that bookends this thing. So it'll say creating case. And then we are also going to, because the modal is closing, that after close action is going to fire too, and it's going to remove any records that might be hanging around in that particular model. So save and close, there's our creating case message. The UI is unblocked. And now if I hit view cases, there's our case right there. And let's create another one real quick for APAC. And this time we'll say the, let's see, the oar is broken. And it just is. So we'll keep that as new because it is new. So we'll save and close. And so the reason I'm doing this is because now when we look at view cases, so I'm seeing cases, even though these are related to two different accounts, I can see them in one place in one sliding panel. And so if I wanted to make a change, instead of drilling into Nautilus Core APAC and then its related list of accounts and making that change, I can just make a change here. Just is, I'll add an exclamation point. And maybe Nautilus Core South America. So remember, this is a case that's looking up to Nautilus Core South America, separate from this. Change that status to working or escalated. That's actually pretty serious. And this save action is saving the model of open cases, which is all of these. So in one go, so this is now escalated. This has an exclamation point. We'll hit save. It closes that. And now when I look, so in one click, this is awesome. Saved changes across multiple cases, across multiple accounts simultaneously. Really cool. We will come back. The spacing is killing me, but that's part of what we do for design. We're really focused right now on sort of basic layout and structure, as well as all that functionality. And then we're going to come back and add in some of that design. The last thing we want to do today is add this search capability to filter our list. Once we get tons of accounts in our org, we want to be able to quickly search and find the right ones. And so there's a filter component that does just that. So we'll drag our filter into the wrapper right above the list, and we'll add a little bit of spacing there on the top. We'll just do small and bottom small. And don't click add a filter, because we don't want like a drop-down filter. We actually want to go to filters and search. We want to apply search as you type, and we want to show a search box. And the search box placeholder text, we want to be, we'll just say search accounts. That's what we're doing. Filter set, we need to make sure that this is on, good thing we checked, our account list. So remember, this is what this list is on. It's looking at all of our global accounts. And so in the context of those, we want to make sure we're filtering just on that list. So account list, enable when filters activate. We don't need a reset button here, so we'll choose always hide. And let's save and see what we've got. Let's just refresh the page. Cool, so there's our search accounts. And let's see if so remember we take the box to search as we type. So blue, perfect, working as expected. Awesome. So yeah, that is a lot today that we worked on, but really, really awesome stuff. And I mean, in a relatively short period of time, we have a very powerful application. It's not super good looking yet, but very powerful in terms of the capabilities of what we're doing here without having to do any code, and looking across account hierarchies, looking across child accounts, looking at the cases and the opportunities that look up to those, being able to easily create a new case, edit opportunities from our chart. Some really, really awesome stuff. So great work today. We'll be sending out a link to the GitHub repo page where we've got copies of the XML. We'll keep that updated as we go through this series, and you can either catch yourself up or just pick up kind of where we left off if you're just joining this series now. So thanks so much, great building, and we will chat again next week.